Most people who get disrespected ask the wrong question. They ask, how do I handle this? How do I respond? What do I say? But the most powerful people in history never had to ask those questions. Not because they had better answers, but because they understood something that most people spend their entire lives missing. Disrespect is not something that happens to you. It is something you invite. That is a hard thing to hear, and I am not saying it to be cruel. I am saying it because it is the only version of this truth that actually gives you power. If disrespect is something that happens to you, if it is about other people's behavior, other people's character, other people's problems, then you are permanently at their mercy. You will spend your life reacting, defending, managing, hoping people treat you better. But if disrespect is something you invited, something you communicated through your behavior, your standards, your signals, then you have complete control over stopping it. Forever. This video is about that control. 5 laws drawn from the deepest understanding of human psychology, from Machiavelli, from Marcus Aurelius, from the men who were never disrespected because they had made it psychologically impossible for anyone to try. By the end of this, you will understand not just how to respond to disrespect, but how to become the kind of person who is never given it in the first place. Law 1. The law of perceived value. Before we talk about how to handle disrespect, we need to understand exactly why it happens. The human brain makes an automatic, unconscious calculation every time it encounters another person. It asks, what is this person worth? What is their status? How much of my energy, my consideration, my respect do they deserve? This calculation happens in milliseconds, before a single word is spoken, before any real interaction takes place. And it is based almost entirely on signals. The way you carry yourself, the way you respond when challenged, whether you seek approval or radiate certainty, whether you over-explain or simply act, whether your boundaries are absolute or negotiable. People who get disrespected consistently are, in almost every case, sending one signal above all others. The signal that says, my approval of you matters more than my approval of myself. Machiavelli understood this in the 15th century. He wrote that men judge others by appearances, that the world is made up of the many who see only what things appear to be, and the very few who actually understand what they are. He spent his life studying what the signals of power looked like, not because he was shallow, but because he understood that in human interaction, perception is reality. The person who is disrespected is almost never disrespected because they are genuinely less valuable than the person disrespecting them. They are disrespected because they have communicated low value through their signals, and the person doing the disrespecting is responding to those signals the way every human brain is wired to respond. This means the solution is not to learn better responses to disrespect. The solution is to change the signals. And the most powerful signal you can change is this: stop seeking anything from the people around you. Not approval, not validation, not agreement, not understanding. The moment you stop seeking, your perceived value shifts. Because a person who needs nothing from you is, to the primitive calculation center of your brain, a person who has everything. Law 2, the law of strategic silence. There is a scene that Marcus Aurelius describes in his private journals, words he never intended anyone to read, where he reminds himself that the opinions of others are just noise, not metaphorically noise, literally sounds made by creatures he has no particular reason to give authority over his inner state. This is the foundation of strategic silence, not the performance of silence, not using silence as a tactic to appear powerful. The genuine, earned silence of someone who has looked clearly at the world and concluded that most things people say about you simply do not matter. When someone disrespects you and you respond with anger, with justification, with hurt, with any emotional reaction, you are doing two things simultaneously. You are confirming that their words reached you, and you are giving them the most valuable currency in human interaction, your attention and your energy. People who disrespect others are, without exception, running a test. They are measuring your boundaries. They are discovering whether their behavior produces results. And every reaction you give, no matter how confident, no matter how well delivered, is a result, which tells them, pushing works on this person. Try again. Strategic silence is not weakness. It is the removal of reward. When Napoleon was in conversation with men who challenged him, men who were certain they were his equal or his superior, he had a particular habit that his biographers noted repeatedly. He would simply continue doing whatever he was doing, writing, looking at a map, reading. He would let the challenge hang completely unanswered until the person delivering it felt the full weight of their own words in the silence of the room. The message was never spoken. It did not need to be. The silence said, "You have not said anything worth interrupting my work for." Practice this. Not the performance of it, the genuine version. The next time someone says something designed to destabilize you, do not reach for a response. Let your mind go quiet. Let the words sit in the air between you. Then simply continue. Whatever you were doing, whatever you were thinking about, continue. The message is delivered without a single word. And it is one of the most powerful messages one human being can send to another. Law 3. The Law of Controlled Distance. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But what most people miss about this is the reason. He was not advising cruelty. He was making an observation about the psychology of access. People value what they cannot fully access. This is not philosophy, it is basic neuroscience. The human reward system is wired to pursue what is slightly out of reach and to devalue what is permanently available. When you are completely available to everyone, when people can reach you at any moment, when you give your time and attention freely, when you are never absent, you make yourself ordinary. And ordinary things receive ordinary treatment. Controlled distance is not coldness. It is not punishment. It is the strategic management of your own scarcity. When someone consistently disrespects you, the instinct is to address it, to have a conversation, to set a record straight, to establish a boundary through words. But words are the weakest form of boundary. They are heard and then forgotten. They can be argued with, explained away, dismissed. Distance cannot be argued with. When you make yourself less available to someone who has disrespected you, not dramatically, not with an announcement, not with an explanation, simply less present, less accessible, less invested, you are sending a communication that goes directly past their conscious mind and into the part of the brain that calculates value and loss. Suddenly, you are something they had and are now losing, and the brain responds to potential loss far more powerfully than it responds to any argument or confrontation. Carnegie noted in his study of human behavior that the easiest way to make someone value you is to be genuinely important to yourself first. Not to perform importance. To actually have things in your life, work, direction, standards, purpose, that legitimately take priority over people who have not earned your time. When that is true, distance is not a tactic. It is simply the honest result of a life well ordered. Law 4. The law of consistency. This is the law that most people violate without ever realizing it. And it is the reason why some people manage their response to disrespect perfectly once, and then get disrespected again 2 weeks later. Respect is not built in a moment. It is built across a pattern. The human brain does not judge people based on single interactions. It builds a model, a cumulative picture assembled from dozens of data points. How did this person respond last time? The time before that? Are their boundaries real, or are they negotiable on the right day? Are they the same person in public and in private? One inconsistency does not ruin a reputation. But consistent inconsistency, being firm sometimes, accommodating other times, silent one day and reactive the next, tells the brain of everyone around you something very specific. It tells them that your standards are a mood, not a position. And moods can be waited out. Marcus Aurelius wrote that what defines a man is not the quality of his best day, but the quality of his worst. The day when he is tired, when his patience is depleted, when every instinct is telling him to react. What he does then is who he actually is. The people who command permanent respect are the ones who are exactly the same person regardless of circumstances. Their silence is not dependent on their mood. Their standards are not adjusted for difficult people. Their distance from disrespect does not waver because someone presses harder. This consistency is not natural for most people. It is trained. It is chosen every single day, often in the moments when it is hardest to choose. But here is what consistency builds over time. Predictability. When people can predict with absolute certainty how you will respond, when they know based on months and years of observation that you do not move, do not react, do not compromise, they stop testing. Not out of respect necessarily, out of sheer economic logic. Testing you produces nothing, so they stop. Law 5. The law of genuine indifference. This is the hardest law, and it is the one that separates people who manage disrespect from people who transcend it entirely. Everything we have discussed so far, the signals, the silence, the distance, the consistency, all of it can be performed. You can fake high value. You can perform silence. You can manufacture distance as a tactic. You can be consistent in your performance of the right behaviors. But performance has a ceiling because people sense performance. The primitive part of the brain that calculates status and value is extraordinarily good at detecting inauthenticity. It has been doing it for hundreds of thousands of years. It will eventually see through the act. The only version of all of this that works permanently, that makes you genuinely untouchable to disrespect, is when you stop performing indifference and actually become it. Epictetus, the philosopher who spent years as a slave, who had less legal standing than the furniture around him, wrote that no man can harm you without your permission. Not as a comfort, as a fact, because what another person says about you, does to you, thinks about you, none of it has any power over your internal state unless you reach out and grant it that power. You always have the choice to not reach. Genuine indifference is not disconnection. It is not caring about anything. It is the very specific discipline of caring deeply about the things that are actually yours, your work, your direction, your standards, the people who have genuinely earned a place in your life, and being truly, completely neutral about everything else, including other people's opinions of you, including whether they respect you, including whether they disrespect you. Here is the paradox that every person who has reached this level discovers. The moment you genuinely stop needing people to respect you, not as a performance, not as a tactic, but as the honest result of a life centered entirely on your own values and direction, that is the moment they start. Because a person who needs nothing from you is the only kind of person the human brain instinctively, automatically, without hesitation, decides is worth respecting. The 5 laws together form a single truth. Respect is not given to people who demand it. It is not earned by people who react to its absence perfectly. It is not achieved through better responses to disrespect. It is the natural, inevitable result of becoming someone who no longer notices the disrespect, because they are too busy, too directed, too genuinely invested in things that matter more. Marcus Aurelius spent 2 decades leading an empire at war, battling plague, managing betrayal, losing children, facing death. And he wrote in his private journal, never for an audience, never as performance, that the only thing that could truly harm him was something he chose to let harm him. He made that choice every morning, not to be untouchable to the world, but to be sufficient within himself that the world's attempts to diminish him simply had no place to land. That is the standard. Not perfect responses, not clever tactics. A life so full of genuine purpose and direction that disrespect does not register as a threat, because you are no longer looking to others to confirm what you already know about yourself. If this changed something in how you see the problem, share it. There is someone in your life who is spending enormous energy reacting to disrespect when they should be building the kind of inner world where it cannot reach them. Subscribe, because what comes next goes deeper. The laws are just the beginning.